Welcome to the Sound of Movement podcast. Today we're continuing our week-long discussion around program design, and we're going to be talking about why structure and supercompensation are keys to your training. This is something that is a very misunderstood topic, and you're going to want to stick around for. What's up, everyone? It's time to rock. If you're new to the tribe, Rich is behind the mix. Phil's across the table for me. We're joined by Nilesh as well. My name's Rad Burmeister, and we are Unity Gym, experts at turning driven people into athletes. This episode is brought to you by the Unify Movement System, the only online program effectively balancing strength, flexibility, and fitness so that you can unleash your inner athlete. You can get daily coaching by us, plus our epic foundation prep program and revolutionary structural balance blueprint to create your ideal program and optimize your performance. Now, I've got a big announcement. This week we are going for 72 hours. We're going to give you the opportunity to join our revolutionary UMS program at a lifetime discounted rate. So instead of the regular $97 per month, you're going to be able to get it at a discounted rate. How much? Well, we're going to announce that tomorrow, but we're going to give you a 2-week trial as well. So tune in, because tomorrow, 28th of April, 2021. You're going to have 3 days to join the program at a great price. Now, before we get started, warm welcome if you're on the live stream in the UMS Movement Mastermind Facebook group. Leave a comment and we'll send you some love. Remember that anyone can join and interact with us. And lastly, a shout out to our YouTube athletes catching the replay. Hit the like button to support the channel and subscribe if you like what you see. All right, joining us today is Phil White and Nilesh Murthy from ADPT Physio. How are you, boys?
Very well.
Oh well,
yeah. It's been a while since we've both been on the show. A couple of weeks.
No, it's good to have you back, mate.
Good times.
Happy days. Let's
Happy
get into
days. It. Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, I think that I'd like to start this one off because it's just something that I have been trying to explain to patients so much in the last couple of weeks, where I've just had a whole bunch of patients who take the approach of just thrashing themselves every time they're in the gym and doing the same thing over and over and over again, not having any variety, not having any in exercise selection or in intensity in which they do things. So I'm really keen to talk about this one today, because I think if you get this right, you'll work smarter, not harder.
It's a complete game changer. It's a complete game changer. And I mean, I think to pre-frame this, I think it's important to understand like the way that adaptation occurs in the body. So whether it's a strength adaptation or a flexibility adaptation or a fitness adaptation, the whole reason why you train, the adaptation doesn't occur when you're training. The training creates a stimulus. So if you go to the gym and you lift some weights, you basically create a whole bunch of signaling that goes on through the body on a hormonal level that in a really layman term says, okay, let's build some muscle or let's build some strength. And then the body says, yeah, let's do it. Give me the right conditions to make that happen. And those conditions are rest and recovery. The real adaptation occurs when you're asleep. And then nutrition, good nutrition, right? So when it's a real misunderstanding to think that I go to the gym, I kill myself, I get stronger. No, that's not what happens. It's that you go to the gym, you do a workout that creates a stimulus for growth, and then the rest and recovery that you do afterwards is the catalyst that creates that growth. And that's where supercompensation comes into play. So then if you go a little bit deeper, you look into the way that a program block looks like, and when we understand these things, this adaptation process, we can use supercompensation, which is basically a process of repeatedly causing a stimulus over time until you push your body to a point where it doesn't really want to be pushed that much further. It needs to recover now. And during that period of recovery, it has a massive level of growth. Would you say that that's a good layman description of kind of adaptation and supercompensation?
Yeah, I think that's a nice way of thinking about it. And what I just see so often is people just doing all of the stimulus over and over again, and then without any of the recovery. And it that's why I'm working with them as a physio, because they're
it's good for us, isn't it?
It's good for
it does the job. Definitely there are some well-known brands of group classes that send a lot of those particular people my way, because it is just, when you have a program that lacks structure, both in the micro sense, so within a week, and then over the long term, if you're just going to be hammering away at the same things and not recovering, then that's it.
It's also highlighted of social, like we've touched on this before, social media doesn't really help the sense of it, because you see your athletes, you see your CrossFit or whatever you call them, putting up posts and them at capacity or running at or training at the red line. So, and that's what everyone perceives as training hard.
Yeah, I mean, this is my own personal take on it, but if you look at probably some of the earlier mainstream footage of hardcore training was, Arnold Schwarzenegger days, right? Like that was, at least from my perspective, when I think of all the things that I've been exposed to, if I reflect back to what some of the earliest footage, it's, Arnie and, his generation training in Gold's Gym, and down at Venice Beach and stuff. You're not really seeing people, you don't really see them when they're doing their recovery days, right? Like you see them when they're really pushing that last set and the veins are popping out and their eyes are popping out of their head and they're screaming. And so then, the punter thinks, well, that's what I got to do every time I go to the gym. And then you can compare that to the Nike ads, or whatever it is, the Fitbit ads. And it's always the people, just getting gassed as they go up the stairs and getting to the top and putting their hands on their knees. And of course there's a place for that, right? Like it's not like that. It's not like we don't do that. But that's not what happens all the time.
Yeah, and I think I've mentioned this study before a few times for my sports science degree about looking at runners who we had professionals, we had elite and then amateur runners. And basically with time of training, the elites and the professionals did the same amount of total time spent, but the professionals would do a higher peak intensity because they were able to chill out for the rest of the day. They were able to, eat and sleep and go to the beach and have a spa and all of those things, whereas the elite people had to then go to work and look after their kids, and they didn't get that same recovery. So although they're putting in the same perceived exertion, so they're working as hard as they possibly can and they're doing the same amount of time dedicated to their training as some of the professionals, they just don't have the ability to recover. And I think it was really interesting when I was working at the Giants, and you'd go in, when I was doing massage sessions there, and most of the time you just see the guys sort of sitting around. They have ping pong tables and they have Xbox and they have all these things around the headquarters of the Giants because they hit their training hard, but then they're just eating and chilling.
80-20. They follow the 80-20 rule really well. You build your capacity really well, but within that time there's recovery, your little pillars of progress, and then your 20% is game day or training at the 90+% and so forth. And but everyone just gets caught up in the 20%, not the 80% that make the whole pie.
I did for a long time. And if we talk about, when we're working out, the four of us here with Richard working out what we were going to talk about today, Richard brought up a good point that right now at Unity Gym and in the UMS online, it is peak week. And next week we're going to be doing deload week. And Richard was reminding me that he gets a lot of questions in the classes, people saying, why do we do peak week and why do we do deload week? And this is why. If you're early on in your training age and you're at this level where you're really focusing on the technique and you're not really pushing your body to its limits, it may not be as applicable to you. It might be, but it may not be. But when you're around our level, if you train the way that, definitely I'll speak for myself, if you train the way that I do and the way that some of our members do in the gym, some of our senior members and some of the senior students in the UMS online coaching, you absolutely need a deload week, because what we teach people to do is that week on week we try and build the intensity and the volume on last week. It's the idea of, let's see what I can do safely with good technique, and if I did that and I achieved it, let's see how much I can add next week. And you can't do that forever. You just can't. You can't plan that for a year, every single week you're going to be doing more than you did last week. So the smart programming plans a deload weekend, and the way we do it is we do it every 6 weeks. And in the deload week, you dramatically reduce the volume. We teach people that you can still strive for intensity gains, meaning if you lifted 100 kilos for your squat last week and this week you feel like you could do 102 or 103, you can do that. But we reduce the volume by 60%. So if you did 5 sets on the squat, then this week you're only doing 2 sets. And anybody that's been doing 5 sets of squats every Tuesday for 5 weeks, when you get to that deload week and they do the 2 sets, they go, what, is that it? And it's this feeling of, is that all I'm doing today? Yeah, absolutely. It is all you're doing today. We're just going to deload and allow the body to recover. And it takes people a long time to get their head around this. And only us, at least in the gym, only our senior students are now starting to come to me after years going, I really get deload week now. When it comes to deload week, they come up to me going, oh man, I'm so stoked it's deload week this week. Whereas when you look at the people that are with 6 months or less experience, they're the people that even when you tell them to deload, you see them in the back corner doing a quick circuit at the end to try and feel like they get some work done, you know?
I think it's good to highlight that the training age is people, or the big population of who the ones are that want to train all the way.
Mm-hmm.
6 months or less, they're like, yep, I've got to do it. Then you add years and years and like, it's deload week. Because I know in 4 or 5 weeks I'll be lifting big tin again, or running again, or doing whatever again. And I think that's the training age is a big tick off there for me.
Yeah, definitely. And because when you're, I guess, initially getting into training, you have so much variability in how much you're able to lift from just your basically neurological adaptations and also your technique. And so it's when you are deeper down that training journey where you're ticking the boxes with your neuro adaptations, you've got dialed in technique, and the gains you've had has been from this supercompensatory effect of like creating a stimulus that then has a actual muscular physiological result. And that when you're lifting at those kind of levels, that gets really draining. Like it's hard to maintain that. Whereas when you're kind of hitting PBs when you're a bit earlier on in your training, it just doesn't kind of drain you in that same kind of way that when you've gone deeper down the track and you really have to work hard for each of those, that improvement, like that's where you just feel absolutely wiped. And if you keep trying to do that, like you're going to have a hard time.
When you talk about it like that, Phil, like specifically, if I try to max out on a squat or a deadlift, like a max squat for me at the moment, if I wanted to do 5 reps with full ass to grass good technique, I'd probably be doing around 140 kilos, I'd imagine. For a deadlift, probably about 180. If I do that, I can't even stretch properly for about 4 days afterwards. Like my body is so sore from it. So the idea to think for myself that I'm going to do that every week, and I learned the hard way, but now that's, what peak week is for us. Like we work our way up and I go, all right, this is that week, I'm really going to go for it. And you earn that rest. And if you do that, if you get that right, oh man, you won't be questioning what deload week is for. You'll be crying for it, And if you get it wrong, unfortunately, it can be a really frustrating experience.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think probably now is a good time to just dive a bit deeper into the structure side of things, because I think we've talked about the supercompensation pretty well here. And if you listened yesterday, we did talk about structure in a very much a week-by-week sort of sense about why you have certain things on certain days. But I thought it would be great while we have Nilesh here, who's had so much experience in professional sports with having different demands for your programming for pre-season versus in-season versus finals, and then off-season, and just getting that idea of that sort of larger macro structure of the idea that you're not just at that, like you're not training the same thing at the same level for a whole year. You're really looking at building the right things at the right time. So do you want to maybe
I think using the structure that most athletes, or in any sport, like your off-season when guys aren't playing and they're in the holidays, athletes are still training, but again they're training at 50 or 60% capacity, again all just to maintain fitness, all to maintain their strength and still have neuromuscular exposure, or some sort of training exposure. It's funny, when they get into pre-season, things change, because in pre-season their goals change, and the goal here is to get ready for in-season. So they're not training hard from week 1, they're building their way up to round 1, which could be in 6 weeks or 3 months, whatever it is. But you'll see it'll be a nice linear increase to round 1, so they peak then. You'll see, example, running loads pick up from 4Ks a week all the way up to 20, 30Ks a week. Isn't done in the first week, because we'll break them all if we do that. Same thing goes in season. Funny thing is, in season, guys don't do much. They maintain everything. Our guys will be doing, with their squats, 4 to 6 reps. Good load, good intensity, good, stimulus. But they'll be there just maintaining and topping up the good work they've done in the pre-season to make sure, in pre-season they've got up there. Now they've got in-season, they hold it together. And I think what they do really well is they, we talk about tapering or different cycles. They actually do little dips where they have deload weeks going into bye week, where guys get refreshed. They get, neuromuscular fatigue kicks in by then. So they get a good recovery week. Same thing working towards finals, whatever sport you play. Come around 22, 20, wherever you're at, they'll dip off and they'll have a light week in the gym, focus, mobility, strength, or just some sort of stimulus. And then they get them ready, recovered to peak for finals. And that's how you see the good teams get up there. And I think that works really well with, our side of things in our lens of physio. We don't see guys walking through the door with overuse injuries. It's all maintained really well by the performance staff, and it makes our life a lot easier, the Giants or in sport. So
yeah, I think it's been interesting looking at like the spread of patients you see versus spread of patients I see, because you're definitely on the like spectrum of seeing acute injuries where people have hurt a rolled an ankle, hurt a joint, dislocated their shoulder, that sort of things. Whereas like in the gym world, all I see is like basically
Chronic
I don't quite like the
injuries,
term overuse, because it's not high load to get you, it's how you get there. But yeah, definitely people with load management issues where they've caused themselves tendinopathies or muscle strains or spasm because they've just like they're doing all the right exercises, but it's either an issue with like that micro load with technique, or it's a macro loading program side of things. And so but whereas in the sports world, like you've got the strength conditioning staff and nutrition staff and player management people who are making sure they're not dealing with stress and anxiety and living situations, and so they're getting all that stuff so right. And so
and again, you don't have to have all these resources around you to get it right.
Yeah,
you just got to follow a system.
Yeah. Something that was a game changer for me was, rereading a bunch of literature over the past couple of years and being reminded of when you're in a state of overreaching, how to recognize it and then to do a deload, even if it's unplanned. And so the concept of overreaching is if you're not in a state of overreaching, theoretically, you should see small improvements each week. You should be able to feel like you can go a little bit more this week or push a little bit harder, because that's the process of supercompensation. This all relies on good programming though, because for example, if you're doing the same muscle group or the same movements without enough recovery in a 7-day period, then it can stifle this process. But let's presume you've got your basic programming down pat so that you have enough rest and recovery. For example, we do squats on Tuesday. We don't do another lower body movement until Friday. So if we do that well, by the time I come around to Tuesday next week, should be able to do a little bit more on my squat. When you're in a state of overreaching, those are the workouts that you come into and you go, God, I'm so weak today. I just can't lift as much as I did last week. Everything was going great. I lifted so much last week and the week before, and now I was doing 100 last week. Now I can barely do 90. That's when you're in that state of overreaching, and this is where so many people get it wrong, right? They think, I'm going to push through it. I'm going to go harder. And I used to do this. I used to do it all the time, and I got injured all the time. That's how I got tendinopathy for sure. I was feeling it, and my response to it was, well, I'm pushing through this, instead of going, okay, let's have a chat to Phil. Let's figure out what's going on in my body, figure out how I manage this load and get through it. And I think if you can learn to recognize that state of overreaching, and people then ask, well, how do I know when I'm in a state of overreaching? If you can't do the same as what you did last week, as long as all the other factors are the same, as long as you haven't had a big night out or something like that over the weekend, if you're still getting good sleep and everything. But once you're in that state of overreaching, to be able to go, okay, I'm going to deload this week, even though it wasn't my plan. And sometimes you don't even have to deload for a week. Sometimes you can deload just for a couple of workouts. You can, if you had the weekend off and you didn't do much and you're not feeling good on Monday, you can just deload Monday and Tuesday, and often by the time Wednesday comes around, you're ready to go again,
And so often with these sort of injuries that I see all the time is they send warning shots. Like they let you, it's often with like the forearm stuff. Like when I went through the process of giving myself this tendinopathy on purpose to really experience it, just gonna maybe have a few regrets around that. But when I did my program of trying to actively give myself forearm tendinopathy, it like didn't happen straight away, but I started getting like a few signs of like, oh, this is feeling a bit more sore, a bit rough. But like it was only when I persisted and pushed through that for another few days of doing maximal pull-ups and wrist flexion exercises that it really set in and just wouldn't go away. Whereas before that, it sort of zinged a bit. And then that would be the sign where you listen to your body and be like, okay, I'm just going to deload a little bit and then come back to it. But so often we kind of get in that mindset, and often it is when you're training, with that sort of competitive side of things where you're in a group class, or you're in a, you've got someone else there and you're trying to really prove yourself or whatever, or there's just some people who like to just blast themselves. Like it's so often that we do get some warning signs that something's going to go wrong, but we don't listen.
Yep. And I think one of the hardest things that the average punters have to deal with is the confusion about what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. Because I can remember being this way myself, even when I was a personal trainer in my early days. just not. There's so many different ways you can write a program split. There's so many different people that you could follow, and different people that you'll speak to will give you completely conflicting advice. So it is hard to know what you should be doing, but there are some basic rules of thumb that can be applied to most programming. So when it comes to most load, if you push your body to its limits, it usually takes 48 to 72 hours for muscles to recover from a resistance session. So if you're going to your limits, if you're pushing yourself to that 90% max effort or beyond, then you want to be thinking that you do not want to be trying to do strength training on those same muscle groups for another 48 to 72 hours. This is why in the UMS we have 72 hours break between the same muscle groups. So bend time strength on Monday, Thursday, lower body Tuesday, Friday, and then our athletic movements on Wednesday, Saturday. That's not an accident that we chose that program split. It's not like oh wow, we decided to do it the way that everybody says you should do it. We thought about that, really carefully. So if you're doing a program that doesn't take that into consideration, and if you go into a workout and you start the workout and you go, oh my God, those muscles are really sore, you might want to have a think about, what did you do yesterday or the day before? Are you using the same muscle groups and trying to really, trying to do another maximal workout on something that you've only just done?
Because it comes back to that stimulus and then recovery. And if you've already stimulated it, give it recovery. If you haven't stimulated it, give it some stimulus. But
exactly
so
right.
often people get that.
I've had runners come in going, yep, I ran Friday, Saturday, Sunday, my shins are sore.
Yeah.
So
on Monday, yeah.
Obviously, if you're an elite runner, it's a different story. But if you're an everyday runner, like it's, like Phil said, if you stimulate it, you got to recover it.
Yep.
So basic fundamentals to know.
Another good rule of thumb that I've followed that's worked well for me is to have one rest day every week minimum, meaning that no matter what your programming is, no matter what it is that you do, that you have one day a week where that day you can move. You could go for a swim or go for a walk on the beach or play some, frisbee with your friends at the park or whatever, but have one day a week that isn't programmed into your training, where it's not like I've looked at some people's programs and they go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm doing this, and I think, well, where's the rest?
Yeah.
Where's that one day a week where you just get up and go? And if you actually program like that and you're that high an achiever that you are consistently training 6 days a week, you really look forward to that Sunday. I do.
Yeah.
When I get to Sunday, I'm like, oh yes, I don't have to go to the gym today.
Yeah, I have had quite a few patients like that this week, where one of my main interventions has been like, rest day.
Yeah, just one day.
At least one.
Yeah.
Just please put at least one rest day in there, because it's so common that people, when they get motivated for exercise, they just feel like if they stop it all that everything's going to crumble apart. But if you change that mindset and think about how important recovery is as part of getting a super compensatory effect and getting stronger and fitter and all the benefits you want to get from training, like when you start to really get that drilled in, that this is a positive thing that you can do for yourself, then it really changes the game. So think about that both in the short term and in that long term thing, because today we really want to talk about that structure, is like that long term. How are you peaking over the year? Do you have certain events that you're trying to work towards? Do you have certain physical goals that you're trying to peak for? And really do think about how you're going to structure your bigger programming decisions around it.
Yep. And then, that structure, also has to include progressive overload, which is what we spoke about yesterday. If you want to know what that is, listen to yesterday's show. Anyway, I hope you got something out of that, guys. Tune in tomorrow if you want to join our UMS online coaching group at a lifetime discounted rate. It's a really great opportunity to get it. And we're about to jump into our UMS online coaching group, where we give specific coaching guidance to our members. Thanks, boys. Thanks for coming on.
Mate. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Have a good day, everyone.
See ya.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.